Once upon a time, long, long ago, when rivers abounded with fish and forests teemed with animals of every kind, humans settled the vast expanses of the Orenburg lands. Life was hard for people in those days. The sunshine was fierce in summer, and winters were bitter cold. But little by little, year by year, people overcame all the challenges life brought them. They became wise and learned to raise crops and to build warm houses. They also tamed the wild beasts, which then provided them with milk, meat, and wool. This tale, dear children, is about one of those amazing animals, a goat. It was the special Orenburg Downy goat. This is the story about how the people of Orenburg turned this budding, bad-tempered animal into a friend. When the people of Orenburg first arrived, they noticed herds of wild goats on the banks of the Ural and Sakmara rivers. These goats wandered about the meadows of the steppes, drinking their fill from the rivers. Never, though, did they approach men's homes. The meadows abounded in grass, so they had enough to eat. The goats moved swiftly from one meadow to another. Eventually, they reached some mountains. These were the Guberla Mountains. The goats enjoyed climbing these mountains, whose sides were covered with a greenery quite different and not so rich as the grass of the meadows. The thorny wild peach and juniper shrubbery did not scare off the goats. They relished biting off bits of these juicy bushes. On one occasion, the goats made a stop in the shade of these bushes, and they then decided to settle on the mountain. The goat herd was like a big, close family. It was noisy and full of activity. The head of the herd was the leader. He was older and more experienced than the rest of them. All adult goats obeyed him. It was the young goat kids, which used to be naughty. They did not understand that one had to be alert, for the mountains were full of danger. The wolf could lie in wait in the bushes. The young kids were easy prey for him. When the leader heard the kids frightened bleating, he would rush to the rescue. All predators feared the sharp horns of the leader, so even the wolf would drop his prey and flee for safety when he saw the leader coming. The days passed. The summer turned to autumn, and soon winter came. The goats were prepared for this. At the onset of the cold, a soft, warm undercoat, or down, grew under the goat's wool. This protected them from icy winds and freezing frosts. The colder the winter, the thicker and longer grew the goat's down. When spring approached and the sun came out more often, the goats began to feel uncomfortable. Thick down is good for a freezing winter, but not for the warmth of spring. They wanted to shed these heavy coats. The goats tried rubbing against each other, but it didn't help them to rid themselves of their downy winter coats. They began to look scruffy. They didn't like it, because goats are among the cleanest animals in the world. It never occurred to any of them to ask the men and women for help, but an opportunity to do so presented itself. One day, the leader's dearest granddaughter, a snow-white young girl, or doe kid, went on a walk with the other goats. She went off on her own and got lost. The goats got upset. They thought that the doe kid had been grabbed by the hungry wolf. In vain they searched for her all night. In vain they bleated for her till dawn. You can imagine how happy all the goats were when the doe kid returned the next morning. She approached the leader and apologized. She then recounted her adventures. After she lost sight of the herd and then lost her way, she began to bleat, calling for help, but nobody answered her call. Suddenly she heard a dog barking. The clever doe kid realized that she must have come to a settlement. This extremely intelligent dog told its master about the unexpected visitor. When the man came out on hearing the dog's barks, he saw that the goat was trembling from cold. He led the lovely doe kid into his warm sheep barn. There, the sheep were standing beside the feeder, chomping away at some yummy hay. The doe kid was hungry and went over to the feeder. The lovely scent of the hay made her mouth water. The sheep made room for her and let her take part in their supper. In the morning, the little goat saw the man enter the barn and pet his sheep. He told his sheep that summer was coming and that they wouldn't need their warm coats anymore. He took special shears and started to cut off the sheep's wool. They let go of their woolly coats willingly. The polite kid thanked the man for the shelter and hay and said that she would like to return her herd. He did not try to keep her and even showed her to the gate. When the little kid found the herd, she described the man who had proved to be kind and skilled. The leader listened closely to his granddaughter's story. He took special note of the shearing of the sheep. This was the solution. The man could help them get rid of their winter coats. The leader took his herd to the man and asked him to shear them. The man readily agreed. He was anxious to have a new experience, for he had never before tried to shear goats. But his shears did not work on the goats. They kept slipping. The tough guard hairs on top got tangled with the downy fibers beneath. The man went to consult with his wife. She was a do-it-yourselfer, a genuine craftswoman. She baked bread, milked the cows, and spun their sheep's wool and knitted it into thick, warm socks and mittens. She gave the man a special comb and instructed him on how to use it to remove the goat's down. Then the man set to work. It was the leader who was the first to be combed. It took the man a long time to comb out all the leader's down. The leader's top coat became smooth and silky again. Then the other goats offered their sides as if trying to say, "Comb me, please." When he was done and the goats had all left, the man brought the goat down to his wife. It was unsightly, dirty, and messy. The craftswoman sorted it down, removed the tough guard hairs, and washed it down in warm, soapy water. When the down had dried, she held it in her hands, and her hands felt warm at once. The down also proved to be very light. It made the woman think of a spider weaving its cobweb with a wondrous, beautiful pattern, a web of solid texture, but gauze-like. She imagined she could do the same. Then the woman decided to create a fabulous wonderwork, one that would take everybody's breath away. She started her work this way. She proceeded to comb the down with a fine-tooth comb. She combed it for a long time. The fibers seemed to stretch out and even get stronger. Then she twisted all the combed down into a bundle, put it on a stick, and then spun it into yarn. While spinning, the craftswoman sang. She also dreamed up a design for a soft, warm, downy shawl. After spinning all the down, she rolled it into balls, took some steel knitting needles, and started to knit. Her knitting resulted in a heavy, warm shawl. When the folks in her village saw it, they really admired it. For her next project, the woman was determined to knit a thin shawl with a delicate pattern. She called the first pattern she used to make her delicate shawl Snowflake. As she knitted, this craftswoman's wonderful imagination kept coming up with new ways and patterns to make the shawl more decorative. She worked away and finished her first shawl. When she had completed the body of her first downy shawl, she knitted borders along the sides to complete the design. Then she twisted the shawl and stretched it out on a frame. When it was dry, even she was surprised by the results. She was unable to believe what she saw. It was thin and lacy, just like gossamer. The craftswoman called all people from her village to view the lovely shawl. The people saw it and flung their arms up, saying, "Oh, what a miracle!" Then the craftswoman shared the story of how the goats had come to their household. Then men consulted with the leader of the herd. The leader gave his consent, and the men then granted those who wanted to engage in this artistic craft some goats for breeding. From that time, women and girls in every household in Orenburg spent their evenings knitting the warm shawls and the open-work shawls known as cobwebs. These other craftswomen invented many new knitting patterns such as diagonals, peas, cat's paws, and mouse print. Many craftswomen had their own unique signature designs. From then to today, people call these shawls Orenburg shawls. This reflects the oranges of the shawl, the Orenburg steppes. Nowadays, the Orenburg shawl is famous worldwide. It makes one not only warm but also stylish. It is a very precious gift too. Today, the Orenburg shawl is so valued. People bring early examples as well as the most beautiful shawls to the Orenburg Museum so that everybody can admire these miracles. This way too, they preserve the history of the craft. Goats continue to live near people and continue to do a world of good. Sometimes the goat's temper will show through. However, the man forgives them easily. It can't be helped. That's their natural temperament.